With a substantial copper and zinc resources portfolio in the mineral-rich Pilbara region of Western Australia, Venturex Resources is a company set to make its mark in 2015. Today I'm joined by Venturex Resources Managing Director Michael Mulroney. Welcome, Michael.
Good afternoon, Tony.
Michael, what are the three main reasons for investing in Venturex Resources?
Venturex provides an interesting scenario for investors. We're one of the few companies on the ASX that gives copper and zinc exposure. So therefore it's a good blend for people looking to exposure to those markets. We have an advanced project with a large resource base, so that sets us apart from our peers. The resource is some 29 million tonnes, so we've got a good platform to build off, and there's still good exploration upside to be had around the projects. And finally, we think that through that, investors get a good exposure to what we think will be rising copper and zinc prices in the coming years.
Venturex has a large tenement portfolio in the Pilbara, including Sulphur Springs, Liberty Indy and Wim Creek. What is the company's future exploration focus on these projects in 2015?
At Sulphur Springs, we'll be focusing at Kangaroo Caves. We have a resource there that's still open in several directions, and a development path that with the next door Sulphur Springs project that makes it very attractive to have another resource on our doorstep. Down at Wim Creek, the work we've done this year has been quite interesting, using some new technologies. We have discovered a number of different targets around the Salt Creek and Ballabella area, and we have drilling proposals in with the various authorities at the moment to get clearance access to that area early in 2015. So that will certainly keep us busy for most of next year. The Liberty Indy project's certainly still alive and well, but it's probably a secondary focus at this point, but it's something we still keep ticking over in the background.
Venturex is continuing to review its December 2012 feasibility study into the Pilbara Base Metals project with a view to reducing operating costs. Can you give me an update on how that review is progressing?
We've been steadily progressing a number of options. Firstly, looking at the design and construction of the equipment on site and how we approach the project. And obviously with the study done in a high cost environment in 2012, we can see a number of opportunities to advance that and generate some serious savings for ourselves going forward. And secondly, we're also reviewing, as part of the capital cost program, what assets and equipment that we need to own ourselves versus talking to specialist providers who can do a better job in owning and operating those assets than we can, and that can only lead to a better result for shareholders.
The company has also flagged that it is in discussions with a number of interested parties to talk about the advancement and development of the project. Are you able to provide us with an update on those discussions?
Try to. It's obviously a very challenging market to be having discussions with anybody at this stage. We've talked to a number of parties, both Australian and international, and come close a couple of times to getting good transactions away, but the market being what it is, we are still in discussions with several groups. We hope in early 2015 to be able to come back to shareholders and give them a more detailed update of where we think the potential is to do a development transaction for the company.
Michael, could you please provide us with a comment on the drivers for growth in the copper and zinc markets in the years ahead?
Oh, certainly. We're quite optimistic about both markets. The copper market is still very much driven by the construction industry and power generation and distribution in developing countries, and not just China. But at the current point, we expect copper to trade reasonably sideways next year, but even at the current low growth of about 3% per annum, we can see that copper will go into deficit again by 2017, which is roughly when we hope to be heading towards production. So medium term, we've got quite a good view on copper. Zinc is much more interesting. Next year, we've got forecast a number of big closures of existing producers. That coupled with a chronic underinvestment in the zinc industry over the last 10 or 15 years means that the zinc market is really going to go into structural deficit next year. And again, 16, 17 and beyond, we see good support for prices and more than room for new producers to move in.
The sale of the Wim Creek Hotel earlier this year raised some much needed capital for Venturex. Are you able to provide us with an update on your current cash position?
Our current cash, as at the end of September, was about just over $2 million. So we are reasonably placed from that point of view. We'd all love to have more, but we're very cognizant of market conditions. We're continuing to explore opportunities to realise cash out of the existing business, but at some point, like everyone, we will have to look to the market.
2014's been a very tough year for the exploration sector, Mike. Do you expect 2015 to be any better?
It's been a brutal year for the exploration sector. Next year can certainly see that we're bouncing along the bottom of the market at the moment. It's going to take a little time to build investor confidence and get people backing explorers and developers like ourselves. But we're reasonably confident that towards the middle of the year, there's signs of green shoots appearing. We need to foster those and nurture them and get the investors back on board.
Assuming your project stacks up technically and financially, how do you expect to get your zinc and copper product to the market?
Logistics-wise, in the Pilbara, we're very well placed. We're going to utilise the new container-borne technologies to get our product from the mine site at Sulphur Springs to the port at Port Hedland and load it onto the ships themselves using self-loading ships. So from that point of view, it's relatively straightforward, and there's other copper producers that are adopting this technology, and we think environmentally, long-term, we need to do that. From an overseas marketing point of view, our zinc production is under an MOU with Toho Zinc in Japan. So they have access to pretty much the first 7 or 8 years of mine supply, and that will be documented in due course. From a copper point of view, we've had a lot of strong inquiry about chasing our copper concentrate. It's good grade, it's nice and clean. We're not anticipating any difficulty in placing it into the market. So we are keeping that up our sleeve at the moment as we discuss with various partners how we advance the project forward, but it's certainly well sought after.
Venturex has recently exited from its Brazilian exploration projects to focus on its Pilbara base metal project. What does this mean for the company going forward?
Obviously it focuses us from a technical and financial capability point of view. A little bit disappointing because we had long hoped Brazil could become a second arm for our business, but the cost in this market of holding it, and particularly a remote greenfields operation, just proved to be too much. So unfortunately we've had to exit Brazil, but it does mean now we're solely focused in Australia. We've put all our resources and energies into the Pilbara, and we hope to move it all forward quite rapidly next year.
Mike, thanks for your time today.
Thanks, Tony.